First drive of the game, Rainy Orange Bowl, Boston College. First possession, Doug Flutie, 34-yarder to Kelvin Martin, 7-0. Later on, BC scored again to make it 14-0. With the score 14-7, Miami's Bernie Kosar fires a scoring strike to leaping tight end Willie Smith. We're tied at 14, and Coach Jimmy Johnson sees better things in store. Second quarter, BC driving again. Flutie has to scramble. That's a specialty of his. Can't find a receiver. Takes matters into his own hands. 8 yards, touchdown, 21-14 BC. But Miami comes back. Bernie Kosar, when you give him time, he will kill you. Here he hits a diving Warren Williams towards the back of the end zone, or rather the front of the end zone, I should say, just as he was about to be sacked. It's 21-all. A milestone for Doug Flutie coming up. Steps into the pocket. It's Kelvin Martin. Great catch by Martin, allowing Flutie to become the first college quarterback ever to pass for over 10,000 yards. BC later scored to take a 28-21 lead. Fourth quarter, in the rain, tied at 31. Flutie, play action to his roommate, Gerard Phelan. Remember that name. Phelan takes it all the way to the Miami 5-yard line. That set up a field goal, BC by 3. But on Miami's next possession, Melvin Broughton, a substitute running back for the injured Alonzo Highsmith, sweeps outside, turns the corner, cuts back, and watch the football exchange from his right hand to his left hand, the stiff arm, the speed. He did it all. 38-34 Miami. Boston College did not quit. Steve Strahan capping another scoring drive with a leaping score into the end zone. It's 41-38 BC. Time running out. Kosar throwing to Ed Brown, a sure #1 pick in the upcoming NFL and USFL drafts. Watch him struggle to stay in bounds, and watch him again struggle from the 9, the 8, the 7 to the 5-yard line. Bratton scored from the 1. Miami led by 4 on the last play of the game. Only Doug Flutie, it seems, could pull off a play like this. He just wings it 64 yards in the wind and the rain, and it's caught by his roommate. Hey, roommates are made to bail you out in college. Gerard Phelan, Doug Flutie, and the emotion of the moment. That could only happen in the college game. 47-45, a college football classic, and it seems the Orange Bowl is made for them.
Well, what an incredible game, and needless to say, the offense was what told the story of the game. It was appropriate that it was in this game that Flutie went over the 10,000-yard mark in career passing. Nobody has ever done that. It was a good game for Bernie Kosar as well. Let's take a look at the comparative statistics. Flutie was 34 of 46. Kosar, 25 of 38, both well over 400 yards. 3 passing TDs for Flutie. Also got 1 on the ground, 2 for Kosar. The receivers impressive as well. Of course, they have to be if the quarterbacks are impressive. Gerard Phelan, 226 yards. Eddie Brown, 220 yards. Our Roger Twybo was in the Orange Bowl for a first-hand look at the offensive fireworks, and here's his report.
This was new wave college football, Doug Flutie, Bernie Kosar style. Look to the sky and let it fly. Flutie becomes the first quarterback in history to throw for more than 10,000 yards, while Kosar has passed for more yards in 2 years than anyone else.
Both of those kids can play. Our kid can do so many things for and has done so much for us that I'm a little prejudiced towards him. But they're both great quarterbacks.
Yeah, I tried to keep it me against their defense and him against our defense, and I do got to say, though, he did play an exceptional game today. I have to give him a lot of credit.
While the 2 quarterbacks threw for over 900 yards in this game and their backs rushed for close to 400, the 2 beleaguered defenses could really only bend and finally break.
My poor defensive coaches, I flick on that stupid box I got, and I end up talking to my defensive coaches, and all they wanted, they said, Jack, just leave us alone. Let's just let us play, because if we try to blitz him and try to get after him, he's really going to burn us.
When it finally came down to the end of the game, 6 seconds remained, and Boston College had 48 yards to go. For Doug Flutie, if there's any time, there's always a way to win.
The whole last drive, we had 28 seconds. We figured we got to get the ball near midfield and then take a shot at the end zone. Put 3 receivers on one side, just send them down. I scrambled around a little bit to buy time, let them get down there. I just threw it towards Gerard, and he made a great catch.
I was very surprised that guy let me get behind him. I figured that he misjudged the ball maybe a little bit, and he was standing on the 3, and I had to get in the end zone, and you know, if he picked it off, he picked it off, but I couldn't go up with him because if I had fallen down, I wouldn't have been in the end zone. So I figured, well, let's just sit here, and I think it's going to come, and it's going to go to distance, and he went up and just didn't get it.
It was like reliving a nightmare from 2 weeks ago. Still in a state of shock.
Before the football game between Miami and Boston College, when everyone was asking everyone else around the Orange Bowl who would win, the answer was an old cliche, whoever has the football last. That's exactly what happened in this game, as Boston College now goes on to the Cotton Bowl, where Miami will end up in a bowl somewhere, but they won't know until Saturday at 6. From the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, I'm Roger Twybo for ESPN.
Well, whatever ball gets him will...
But they're going to get beat by him.
For the moment, Doug Flutie wasn't thinking about the pros or the scouts and what they've been saying, for this was indeed his finest hour. For Bernie Kosar, whose game was no less brilliant, his thoughts were of one play that will never be forgotten. John Zarrella, CNN, at the Orange Bowl in Miami.
And I want to see it again. You have seen what Doug Flutie did on Friday afternoon in that driving Miami rainstorm. You've heard what his coach said about him. You've heard about him all season long. He is bound to be a first-round draft choice in the National Football League next spring. But he is 5'9", and many think that is far too short for the National Football League. Raiders personnel director Ron Wolf is one of those, although he limits his theories to only his Raiders. Exciting, he says, but wouldn't fit into the Raiders system. Falcons Vice President Eddie LeBaron, meanwhile, a star in the NFL 20 years ago at 5'9", or thereabouts, gives Flutie an unqualified yes. Has the arm, the brain, and the ability, and calls him a very, very good prospect, a big-timer. Well, now it's your turn. Do you think Doug Flutie can play in the NFL? Not just play, but start and succeed. If you say yes, call now, 1-900-720-9606. If you say no, that he will not be a starter in the NFL, call 1-900-720-9609. Now, you got to remind you that each call costs you 50 cents. We'll have results for you tonight at the end of the show. Well, we are on the eve. Idea just whether you think 5'9" is too short to be an NFL quarterback, in essence. We ask you to tell us in truth whether you thought Boston College quarterback Doug Flutie could make it big in the National Football League. Here's your answer. A bit less than at 11:30 Eastern Time when we first asked this question. Then it was 93% of you who said yes. Right now, it's 87% said yes, 13% said no, they don't think he could make it. Of course, the measure of most men come from within, under the left nipple, as Norm Van Brocklin, the coach, used to say. Judging just off Friday's show, I would say Flutie is a heart larger than most NFL quarterbacks.
He's got it. They will go to the Cotton Bowl. Otherwise, it could be Houston or Texas. Auburn will represent the Southeastern Conference. Even folks that don't really give a hoot about college football asking, did you see the play, the pass? Doug Flutie and Bernie Kosar and Boston College and the Miami Hurricanes putting on one of the all-time great air shows of college football history. Flutie hooking up with his roommate for the play at the end of the game. It was that kind of an afternoon, a rainy one in Miami. Flutie hit his first 11 passes here to Kelvin Martin to give BC a 14-0 lead. Miami would come back, though, and tie it. Bernie Kosar, a 10-yard scoring strike to Willie Smith, and you knew off the beginning of this game it was going to go back and forth, mano-a-mano, 14-14. Late in the first half, now BC driving. Flutie, nobody's open, so he tucks it under. And if he doesn't win the Heisman, there will be a Senate investigation. 21-14 BC. Miami driving again after BC was able to score. Kosar had a string of 11 consecutive completions. Warren Williams is receiver right here as he's hit and dives across from 8 yards out. 21-21. 1,300 yards of offense in this game, and Flutie with a milestone right here. That completion to Martin. He goes over 10,000 on his career. 10,000 yards, the only collegian to ever do so. 31-31, fourth quarter. Flutie calls the play action again. And Gerard Phelan takes it all the way down to the 5-yard line for BC, and they get a field goal to take a 3-point lead. Miami gets it back, and Melvin Bratton on this very wet PAT turf somehow finds the footing, carries the ball, now watch, in his right hand, shifts it over to his left hand when the traffic approaches, says, out of my way, 52 yards, Miami leads it by 4. The Eagles are able to come back, and Steve Strahan taps it with a leaping score, 41-38. Time is running out. Yeah, this has been a long fourth quarter. Kosar looking for Ed Brown. Second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth and seventh effort here by Ed Brown down to the 5-yard line. Bratton would score. Miami, with 30 seconds in the game, leads it by 4. This is it. Flutie scrambling. He's flushed out, fortunately, to his right side and finds Jerry Phelan, his roommate. 47-45. That ball went 65 yards in the air. 92 points in the game. But Flutie talking about defense.
I just tried to keep encouraging the defense. You know, they made a couple big plays, a couple interceptions, a fumble recovery, and those were keys in the game. You're not going to stop a good passing team. They're going to make mistakes, and that's how you stop a good passing team. You depend on their mistakes. If they're executing, you're not going to stop them.
Was this the best for Doug Flutie?
I think so. Most exciting, anyway.
Yeah, I tried to keep it me against their defense and him.
That pass that Doug Flutie threw up for grabs only to land in the waiting arms of his roommate. It was amazing. That pass accomplished a lot of things. It beat Miami, gave the Cotton Bowl a 9-2 team in Boston College, locked the Lambert Trophy up for BC, and put a final stamp of approval on Flutie's Heisman Trophy winning season. We get more from CNN's John Zarrella in Miami.
It all came down to one play after 59 minutes and 54 seconds, after 81 points, after the tides of fortune had swung from side to side. A desperation 48-yard pass as time ran out. The ball spiraling through the air. Doug Flutie to Gerard Phelan. A touchdown, a miracle. A 47-45 win. Bedlam on the floor of the Orange Bowl. 30,000 people in the stands and a nationwide audience had watched two good football teams and two great quarterbacks use their magical arms to conjure one of the most exciting games in college football history. 5'9" Doug Flutie, on his way to winning the Heisman Trophy, could not, and understandably so, contain his emotions.
I scrambled around a little bit to buy time, let him get down there. I just threw it towards Gerard, and he made a great catch.
Did you think you'd had enough time to do it, 28 seconds?
Not to get a legitimate drive, but I knew that it was enough time to get out within range to throw one up.
On the other side, Miami's sophomore phenom, who may well win a Heisman of his own in the next 2 years, shook his head in disbelief.
No, I was more in a state of shock. It was like reliving that nightmare from 2 weeks ago.
For Kosar, there will be many more college games, beginning with the Fiesta Bowl on January 1st. For Flutie, his brilliant 4-year college career comes to an end in the Cotton Bowl. But this was the greatest moment of all.
Most enjoyable time of my life. Most enjoyable time of my life. And the most exciting way to climax it here at the end of the season. We got one more game, but this was one I'll remember the rest of my life.
Flutie will play in the pros next year, but he has been knocked by some scouts who say he's just too small. His coach says those scouts and their teams will learn the hard way.
Some pro scouts just don't want to be helped. You know, I mean, they're just got it in their mind that the guy's too small. And for those people, God bless them, and they're not going to get him, but they're going to get beat by him.
For the moment, Doug Flutie wasn't thinking about the pros or the scouts and what they've been saying, for this was indeed his finest hour. For Bernie Kosar, whose game was no less brilliant, his thoughts were of one play that will never be forgotten. John Zarrella, CNN, at the Orange Bowl in Miami.
Definitely no words to describe that play. To say something about Flutie, though, about his going to the pros, I really think he's the one in the driver's seat. It's going to be up to him whether he wants to.
Robert Jackson.
South Carolina used a last-minute touchdown to defeat Clemson for their 10th win. They're followed by Ohio State, Boston College. How about one more look at Friday's touchdown against Miami? Time running out. Heisman Trophy favorite Doug Flutie, a desperation toss into the end zone. Hurricanes all over the place, but Gerard Phelan doesn't heed the warnings. BC over Miami, 47-45. Also in the top 10.
Go with them, friends. 23 in a row over 2 years. They're 12-0. I know what to say about their schedule. You got to go with them, though. Oklahoma second, followed by Washington. The Florida Gators have a big game against Florida State next Saturday night in Tallahassee, and South Carolina is fifth.
The second 5 in the top 20, Nebraska has completed their regular season. They are at number 6. Oklahoma State, that tough loss to Oklahoma dropped.
In the year before his death,